We have been on a kind of a swing of discussing some scientific implications that have occurred in the advent of a discovery in the constellation Pegasus of, for the first time in the history of the world, a sun star which is being orbited by a planet. And soon after Pegasus, this incident in Pegasus about 5 months ago, another one was found in Virgo, and then another one in Ursa Major. And we discussed all of these things. And we discussed the implications of them from a scriptural perspective, because this stuff is in Bibles and so forth. And so we've been looking at this very closely. And then one thing led to another, and we got deeper involved in not only the astronomical implications, but also how they relate anatomically. And amazing things began to develop there. And as we looked, we found that in the Bible there are statements veiled in allegory that us who are alive in 1996 have reached the point of intellectual evolution to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this means something else. Maybe when they're taking a rib out of Adam to make Eve, it means that they're removing electron from an atom to procreate energy, which means that life started from the splitting of the atom. And we say, geez, that makes sense. Now, this couldn't even have entered into the minds of people 100, 200 years ago, and so it always was, oh, they took a rib out of Adam and made Eve. But now in 1996, we have evolved to the point where we understand nuclear fission, and we could say there is something in there that looks like it's indicating that this all began as a result of nuclear fission, the removing of an electron from Adam. And so, that was interesting. We also found out that Judah, the tribe, was positioned at the point of the rising sun, and were called the children of light. And knowing that there's 186,400 miles per second in the speed of light, we found that the number of people in the tribe of Judah was 186,400. Coincidence? I don't know. Could it be a coincidence that the speed of light is in the Bible as well as the nuclear fission splitting the atom? Then it talked about the pineal gland of the brain. We understand the pineal gland of the brain secretes a hormone called melatonin, which among other things is a skin lightener in amphibians. And Jesus says in the Bible, if your eye be single, which is the pineal gland, your body will fill with light. Well, that's okay, but then the second thing which kind of gave that some credibility was back in Genesis 32:30, Jacob, the ancient patriarch, says, I've seen God face to face, and I'll call the place pineal. So we have a description of the pineal gland, nuclear fission, the speed of light in this Bible. And then, of course, probably one of the most interesting things from an anatomical standpoint is that we read how God gave Moses descriptions for building the tabernacle and said, do it exactly the way I say, because it's a pattern. You have to have an outer court, you have to have a curtain, and then you have to have the inner holy place, and I've got to have that exactly like that because it's a pattern. And we said, well, a pattern of what? Well, then we went to Stedman's medical dictionary and found out that the outer court and the inner holy place in the human brain is called dura mater, which is the hard mother, and pia mater, which is the tender mother, which is the innermost tender place of the brain, and that these two are separated by something called arachnoid, which is the web or the curtain. So there we have an anatomically correct description of the human brain given thousands of years ago to couple it with nuclear fission, the speed of light, and so forth and so on. And so as I was going through all of this business, I came across something, and I told you that I would give to you a key that when you were meditating that was given thousands of years ago. I would give you a key. And this key would open the door for you in your meditational state. And then I walked down out of here and I said, geez, what the heck am I going to tell them? Why do I say these things? I get all this stuff. I don't know how everybody's going to come expecting. What shall I say? I had no idea. And so I went into a meditation, and the thing opened to me. And I gave you something that was alleged to Jesus, whatever a Jesus is, given to the Coptic Gnostics of Egypt thousands of years ago, which contained a symbol, which contained a name, which contained a number. And we looked at the symbol, and remember, we're going to be doing this next Saturday night for those of you who haven't gotten the key. But we looked at that symbol. And remember, I told you, Debbie and I were looking through the internet, a computer, and we logged in on NASA. And in NASA astrophysics department, we almost fell off the chair because the symbol that we saw in NASA's astrophysics department is the same symbol. Coincidence? Come on. And then we learned that the key word there was azozio. And I thought, we need another mantra, like we need a hole in the head. You know, we're going to be mumbling nam myoho ringo azozio and all ring around the azozio. Well, who wants to bother? I'm going to do something relevant. I mean, and then we split this word and we found out that word azo means light receptor. And zeo is a form of zeolite, which means filtered by crystal. So we get, wow. And then 4555. If you look on the out there, you'll see there's a constellation, a galaxy called 45, it's number 4565, and then Debbie called up the planetarium, and they told her that there is a galaxy that is unnamed, which has a bright center, is sharply defined, is in the constellation Virgo the Virgin, and is 4555. Bang! So all of these things, and I thought they were documented pretty well, because remember, I've never given you a thing in this place that I didn't give you the accompanying encyclopedia or the dictionary or Stedman's Medical, whatever it was, to document, because you don't need to have any more people telling you, oh, this happened, just have faith. Come on. I mean, if there is such a thing as God, if there is such a thing, then all of this stuff has to be scientifically provable. There's no need to have faith in anything. You live on this planet, you live in this universe, it's either there or it's not. Well, 4555, we may have found where this guy called God hangs his hat. Don't call him up because you got his unlisted number here. You know, he can get picked off. Wouldn't that be, you know, and of course, you know, it sounds bizarre because somebody says, well, you might know where God lives. Well, you know, and our traditional concepts, which are so infantile, we can't conceive of such a thing. But what are you talking about? There is no such thing as God in the context of what you know, because the word God, then give me something. Tell me who you're talking about, because all you're doing is taking the word good, and you're removing a letter and calling it God. It's a play on words. Or you take the word evil and you add a D to it, and now you got devil. So this whole business of God and the devil is nothing more than good versus evil. So he said, you're telling there's nothing as good? Certainly there's good. Certainly there's evil. There's all of these types of things. But when you pinpoint down, who are you trying to contact? And we discussed that. People say, oh, I'm praying to God. If you're praying to God, then you're trying to contact an extraterrestrial. That freaks you out completely. I can't deal with that. Why? Because, well, it's the thought process. Because your system, the intellectualism that you live under that keeps you in bondage to churches and religion, says you're not allowed to think of anything that could have reality attached to it. Could there be something that flies? Could there be something that lands? And then we covered in the Bible. And remember, I told you I would never discuss ETs, UFOs, aliens, except as they're in the Bible. And we covered all of that. We covered spaceships in the Bible. I mean, what are they? They fly. Nobody knows what they are. They've got fire coming at them. They got wheels on them. They got wings on them. When they take off, there's a roar and smoke, and they land. And one of them landed in the book of Ezekiel, and a guy in a white suit got out. And he went between the wheels, and the earth was scorched. So what are we talking about? But see, the problem that we have is that we become so infantile. We're like little kids. Somebody said to me, well, why didn't, if these were aliens, or if whoever the intelligence is telling us these things, why didn't they tell us these things thousands of years ago? Did you ever try to talk to your little kids? What do you tell your little kids? Well, you'll understand when you get older. Don't you? Can they understand? They can't understand all of this stuff. So you say, well, what do you got? And you know what? You know what the universe is waiting for right now, to the point where you could evolve anatomically, so you understand your body, you understand the science of your body and your mind, and you understand the science of the universe and nuclear and electromagnetism and all of that stuff. So I'm sitting here Tuesday night, and I thought that I had presented this stuff fairly well. And it was very important for me that you have the key so that when you go into meditation, so that you can open the door and enter in. A young fellow comes up to me and says, you know, I'm a little uneasy about this key business. Because you gave us the symbol and the name, and he said, but I came from this born-again Christian stuff. And he said, I got to back off, because not that I'm backing off coming here. I'm not. I just want to know, you said you Coptic. I mean, where did this stuff come from? I mean, you know, you just give, you say, I'm not sure about where did it come from. So I said, well, the Coptics were people that said that, you know, they said that people are saved by knowledge, not by faith. And that this was of Jesus, whatever you want to call the existence of Jesus, as we know Jesus is manifested by the Son and all this stuff. So the kid said, well, yeah, okay. And he walked out, you know, seemed satisfied. And so I had my a thing prepared to do today, and it got to be Thursday, and I was ready to do what we were going to do, and Thursday night, it happened, and the word came to me. God spoke to me, said, change Sunday. I said, what do you mean change? What are we going to do? It's Thursday. I got to go. I'm going to New York Saturday. What are you talking? I can't do this. It's change it. What do you want? Do the Coptics. Explain. He said, because you know. I said, I do know. Well, then explain it. I said, okay. So I said, and all the papers are flying and all this kind of business. And then we had but here it is. And the idea is, where did it come from? Who is it? What are you doing with this thing? This key that I'm giving you. Right. Okay. So where did this information come from? How many of you have gotten the key from here? Okay. Where did it come from? It came from Coptics. What were they? They were Gnostics. Okay? So we're going to document so that you understand. Gnostics were those who realized that salvation did not come from faith, but that salvation came from knowledge. Okay? If you know what to do, you can save yourself a lot of problems. You can have faith that somebody's going to come to your rescue, but if you know how to do it yourself, you can save yourself a whole lot of problems. Go to page 736 in the Bible for just a moment, okay? It's for the book of Hosea, page 736. And on page 736, if you look at something, the point is made in in Hosea chapter 4, page 736. And look what it says here. Verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because you have rejected knowledge, I'll reject you. You shall be no priest to me. Seeing that you've forgotten the law, I'll forget your children. I'll forget your children. What's this talking about? Is there some priest in your head? No. Is somebody forgetting kids up on a planet somewhere? No. What it means is that there is no knowledge in this land. People are, you know what people are today, this morning? They're in churches. And they're literalizing a snake talking to two people with no shorts on running around eating an apple. That sounds all right to me, glory to God. And they're talking about a fish swallowing a guy, and then he pukes, and an evangelist comes up and washes up on the shore. And they're literalizing this stuff. And they haven't any idea that they live in a universe. They haven't any idea that there's a connection between the electromagnetic fields of that universe and their brain. They have no idea that the very tabernacle that they're reading about is the brain in their head that's described as dura mater, pia mater, arachnoid. They have no idea these things. And it says you're destroyed for lack of knowledge, and it affects your children. And then you see all the kids on the drugs, and you see all the incurable diseases, and you spent the whole time you're on this earth watching the television about who's dropping bombs on who's blowing up whose buses, who's sending mortars over into a market and killing kids, and who's starving kids, and all this stuff all over the place, with religion up to their necks and all of it. And you say, my God. They are destroyed because they don't know. They have no understanding. There's nobody knows about this stuff. But these people lived thousands of years ago. They knew it. Somebody in the Bible knew of nuclear fission thousands of years ago and put it in there. We have a doctor that comes to this church, said medical science in the United States didn't know what the pineal gland was for 50 years ago. He says the only thing they knew was they would measure if the brain had swollen by where the pineal gland was, because it's supposed to be in the center. They didn't know what it was for. It's in the Bible. It's a guy 4,000 years ago said, I'll call the place pineal. And Jesus talked about the secretion of melatonin 2,000 years ago. You didn't know what it was 30 years ago. In fact, they just started selling melatonin. When you go to buy melatonin, you buy it from a cow. It's a cow melatonin instead of realizing that you have all you need yourself if you're into meditation. They didn't know that. So it's lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, lack of realizing that there's a harmony that you have to have. Who knows about the 7 chakras? Who knows about the energy that flows up the spine? Well, it's getting to be credible now. It's in the Bible. It talks about it in the Bible. And it's the 7 that flow up the spine. It is the 7 months in the earth. And now, as we know, they have discovered the 4 planets. They have reached the 4th chakra in the universal change, the cosmic change. It's all science. This is all cosmology. It's all anatomical. It's all psychological. But look what it says here in verse 6 there. You shall be no priest to me. Why is that important? You want to be a priest? You don't want to be a priest. Who wants to be a priest? I want to be involved with these people. I don't even want to say these. But what does it mean you have to be a priest? Look, Here's the tabernacle. This is the outer court. Okay? This is the curtain. This is the holy place. That's in the tabernacle. The priest was the only one that could go through the curtain into the holy place. Now we find out, where is this really? It's your head. It's your brain, the dura, the arachnoid, the pia mater. The only one that can go through the arachnoid into the pia mater. The only one that can go from the left hemisphere of the brain to the right hemisphere of the brain in your head is you, if you have the authority, if you know what the heck you're doing. Do you know how many of you're sitting here staring at me, I'm yelling back, I'm acting like it. Do you have any idea? You come in this room half, you didn't even know you didn't know you had an arachnoid in your head. I have an arachnoid? Oh my God, I can do something about that. I'll take a pill. Maybe he can massage it out of me. I'll do whatever it is. I got to get rid of it. Nobody knows. And because you don't know, you can't do anything about it. Arachnoid, the web, the curtain, separates the hard outer brain from the holy inner brain. It's nothing. It's in your head. It's your brain. But it says you can't be a brain. In other words, because you don't have the knowledge, you can't enter into the holy place. That's the only thing that keeps you from all of the crap that's been coming down on your head for all of your life. The thing that can save you out of it is finding a way through the web into the pia mater. That's all you have to do. Yes?
The priest can go into the tabernacle, but not into the temple. Right?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The tabernacle's the holy place. And but see, forget priest, forget tabernacle, forget all of that stuff. That's all holy religious stuff. It has nothing to do with this. Forget about that. We're talking about you going into the right hemisphere of the brain, going through the arachnoid into the right hemisphere where all of the creative stuff which we call God. That's why Jesus said, cast your net to the right side. That's why Eden was located eastward to the right side. So then we understand what this is. So that's what, I have given you this key. I have shared with you something that was allegedly given to the Coptics by Jesus thousands of years ago, so that you begin to act in your meditation through knowledge. And I want you to look at this word, through Gnostics. People knew of them thousands of years ago. I want you to look at the word. This is it. It means to know. To know. Apprehension of truth through knowledge. It's esoteric knowledge. Inner knowledge I learn. I know. This G-N-O means know. To know. K-N-O-W. The Greek word gnosis means to know. A Gnostic was one who knew. Didn't have faith. Didn't go to church. No, you can't go to church and know. You can't. What? Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, what?
Years ago, Josie asked a pastor what Gnostics were, and he told her devil worshippers.
Well, yeah, well, to see, you know why he told you they were devil worshippers? Because he didn't know. He didn't know. Okay? Watch here. What? Are you with me here? Are you with me here? Let's think of some words that we use this. What is the present condition? Stay with me. What is the present condition? The present condition is diagnosis. What is the future condition, doctor? Well, I'll give you the prognosis. Got it? Do you see what an agnostic is? Huh? Now, to know, what about the priest or the minister that told you this? Do you know what he was? E-G-N-O-R-A-N-T. That's exactly what it's there for. He did not know. This is what is today. This is what is the future. And those who are turning away from Gnosticism are ignorant. Or you ignore. I-G-N-O-R-A. Okay? Yes?
Agnostic, one who doesn't know.
That's right, agnostic. Yes, yeah. So you see how this is. Now, did you get, I don't know, some of you write this stuff down and whatever. Okay, but you know, you don't have to write it down. Buy the tape, don't be so cheap. You know, all right. Now look, if you take that, there is a word, now listen to me. There is a word, it's Gignoskeim, which is a Greek word. It means to judge with knowledge. So what the Gnostics did is they sought God, they sought spirituality, they sought truth through the knowledge, and they sought it through science, nature, and astronomy. See? That these were the ways to understand. What you have done here, you have come here, and you have been exposed to a Coptic Gnostic. All right? And you know that because you told me years ago where I came from. Okay. So where I come from, why I give you this stuff, why I document this stuff, is because it's Gnosticism. In other words, I'm trying to prove everything. I don't say anything up here without giving you proof of it. And you saw the words prognosis and diagnosis and ignore, and you understand what that word means and what Gnosticism means. Okay. Now so this is to prove or to judge with knowledge, science, nature, your body, the stars, and all of these things will bring you to the fact that you'll understand. And once you're able to read the Bible, you'll understand that it's all in there too, once you can see behind the parables and the allegories and all that kind of business. Okay? Now, watch. Go to page 919. Let me show you something. Let me show you a Gnosticism described in the Bible in Romans chapter 1 on page 919. Romans chapter 1, page 919. And in Romans chapter 1, here is Gnosticism as shown in the Bible. Verse 20. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. You want to see the second coming of Jesus? You got to invest in a pair of binoculars. You go in the backyard. You look up at Pegasus, and there you'll see star 51 Pegasi. There it is. What's so hard? I'll bet you none of you have ever gone out in the backyard with a pair of binoculars. You've heard me screaming and shouting, jumping up and down, doing all these things, spitting water and knocking this thing off, all this stuff. God, have you gone? This is the second coming of Jesus. This is the biggest thing since spit. Have you ever gone out? No. Why? Well, because there's fleas out in the backyard. There's ticks out. I could get in mine to see that. Now I'm going to confess to you, because I hide nothing. I am neither. I haven't either, because I know it's there. I let this, you know, last time I looked through one of those things, I got a sty. You know, so I said, I'm never. But yeah, I know it's there. It is there. As is the constellation in Virgo and all this stuff. And look it. Oh, well, don't look it up. Okay, now, you leave this idea of faith, you go on to perfection, and you develop this to understand. When you develop your body, you understand that your body is a microcosm of the universe. There are little atoms in there and all of the thing. As the sun is rising now, and it sits in Aries, which is the lamb, it then moves in the northern hemisphere to the right side, and summer comes. As the solar energy of the solar plexus moves up through the spine, it hits the pineal gland, which is Aries, opens the right hemisphere of the brain, and summer comes to your life. As it is within, so it is without. That's what the whole basis of this is. Sitting at the right hand of the Father means sitting at the right hemisphere of the brain. The Most High God is the most high frequency in your brain. Okay, why not? Now, so we see here this Gnostic, you've understood prognosis, ignorant, and so forth and so on. But it came from a people who were not superstitious. It came from people who were looking for proof. The people who sat with us in the desert, who understood these things, who came from a higher dimension, from a higher advanced civilization, who put into the Bible about nuclear fission and the speed of light and all of this business, understood these types of things, and they were people of knowledge. Now, they were, in addition to Gnostics, they were Coptic. These were people of Egypt from the desert who spoke to nobody. Every once in a while, even to this day, you'll see one who will wander across the desert and out of your sight. Okay? They were Gnostics, and you understand what Gnostics were. But they were also Coptics. And they adhered to what was called the monophysite. Now, M-O-N-O-P-H-Y-S doctrine. Okay? Why is that important? It is, if you look this word up in the dictionary, you know what it means? Monophysite means the science of matter and energy. Do you see a word in here? Physics. Classic physics, quantum physics. These are the people that came from a higher dimension, came to this earth, and gave you the key. Not based on any religious mumbo-jumbo, but based on science. That's why a Debbie Sylvia could go to the planetarium and find out where 4555 was. That's why a Zozio turns out to be light filtered by crystal. And that's why the symbol turns out to be awe-inspiring. So the science of matter and energy, the relation between the two, and physio, which is in the mono, means natural. Natural. These are the people of the key. So let me tell you a little bit about them. When the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, you know, I wish the kid that had asked me this was here today. He's not. Well, when the Dead Sea Scrolls were found near Luxor in Egypt, they were near a place called Nag Hammadi. A jar with 1,000 leaves of leather-bound volumes was in there. Included was this, what we're talking about, and the Gospel of Thomas, which was the Gnostic material written, and it was all written in Coptic. They had the language. And the first ones to attack these documents was the church. And do you know why these documents? What have I done since you've come here? I've taught you Buddha. I taught you Krishna. I taught you Zoroaster. I taught you Mithra. I taught you mythology. I taught you all of these various different aspects. I taught you about how the Magi who discovered Jesus were from the tribe of Magi from Iran, and they were astrologers. I told you how Cyrus, who was the king of Iran, actually was the one who built the temple for the Jews. I told you how the law came out of Babylon and all of these places from Ezra. And this is what the Coptics combined Egyptian, Babylonian, Greek, Persian, Jewish mysticism into an accompanying Christian doctrine. They says it's all the same thing. Because they knew. See? All based on understanding nature, physics, the universe. And when you have something that is truthful, and it is natural, and can be proved, it becomes a serious threat to Christianity. Because Christianity is none of those things. Yes, sir?
I would like to add something before we...
Let me come down there because they can't hear you, and this goes out all over the world as far as Manahawkin and all over. Let me stay right here. Yes, sir?
Carl Jung, talking to his father, who was a pastor, his father would say that you have to have faith and believe. And he would tell his father, no, you must have experience and know. Talking about the dura mater, pia mater, it comprises the dural tube, which is part of the craniosacral therapy, one of the systems that I work with. When you inhibit the movement of the bones of the cranium, which inhibits the movement of the dural tube itself, what then happens is still point. Still point takes you into a space where the system actually shuts down and you come into quietness, unknown, often deeper than any meditation I've experienced. I've been meditating for about 25 years, and this is an experience, and you have knowledge of quiet.
Great. Thank you very much. Do you find it interesting, while I'm back here, do you find it interesting that the biblical Exodus 26 description of the tabernacle states, be careful how you construct this because it's a pattern of something else that exists. And you have the outer court, the curtain, and the inner. And then you connect that like dura mater, the outer, pia mater, the inner, and the arachnoid, the web of the curtain in the middle. Is that interesting to you?
I'm still thinking about that, to tell you the truth, because I'm not sure how I see it that way.
Okay.
I understand the 3 layers of the dural tube for when we twist, so that the one layer can turn within the other. I understand it from a physiological perspective.
Well, what I'm looking at it too is the object of the dura mater being hard mother, the pia mater being tender mother. So then the implications spiritually in the Bible as a holy book transfer itself over to the inner recesses going through this web or curtain. Think about it. Yeah, that's the first time. Think about it.
Say once again,
I'm sorry.
I'm looking at it like more physiologically, and the outside gives more structure.
Right.
It's more firm, and the inside needs to be softer because it's going to be sliding over the brain itself.
I understand it, but that's good. But the point is why.
I'm not denying what you're saying. I'm just taking it from my
This is
place.
great for me, but I shouldn't do it here. Let's talk about it later. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Everybody's trying to, See, this is great. See, do you know these people just wander in here? There's a purpose about all this. He didn't even know. There's a purpose of people coming in. Okay, now, let's do this real quick. The key from the Coptic Gnostic gospel. Where did I get this stuff? Where did it come from that you got as the key? And I'm going to go, okay? The Coptics wrote something called the Books of I-E-O-U. All right? It is of the true God, I-E-O-U, I-E-Z-E-M-A. Okay? And it includes the 3 watchers, the 12 emanations, the symbol that I gave you, a zozio, which we know is light, with zeo filtered by crystal in 4555, which, as far as we know now, is a galaxy in constellation Virgo. Now, listen up close, because I'll tell you something. Nobody in the world, now this is going to sound, what do I care at this stage? Who cares? I'm going to tell you what this means. And you realize you're going to be the first people in Vito's basement. And this comes from 3,000 years ago. So what's it mean? The Book of the True God, I-E-O-U, I-E-Z-M-A. The letter I is an international symbol for electrical current. Okay? The letter E is a symbol for the electron. The letter O is a symbol of the international measurement of resistance, which is ohm. Don't worry that Charlie Ohm discovered it in 1700. If his name was Rosenblum, you'd all be chanting Rosenblum. It was all worked out that way. Okay. The letter U is an international symbol for internal energy. Now you go ahead and you look any of these up in your dictionary and you'll find them. Okay? There is also in the letter U a representation of the physics, which is called up quark, which is protons and neutrons, which identifies uranium, and by identifying uranium, you are also identifying Uranus. Electron, the current, the measurement of resistance, internal energy, the true God. Now, when you come down here to I, you have the same thing. You have current, you have the electron, and then you have the letter Z, and the letter Z internationally is the symbol for atom. The letter EM, or the letters EM, is the international symbol for electromagnetics. And the letter A is a symbol for ampere, which is the measurement of current. As they say at the weddings that you go to when they all get up to dance, it's electric. In other words, as Debbie gave me this thing to read, the life force is electric. It's electrical force. Your brain is electricity. There are no spirits. There are no gods. There is electricity in your brain. And the electrical force connect. Look. Look. Hey, who am I? I'm not here telling you to believe anything. I'm showing you. Say, oh, this guy's, go ahead. It makes no difference. I'm simply sharing to you what this is. Here, you have an electric force between 2 points in your brain. You have an electric force between 2 people. When you meditate for someone, and the electric force arcs from you to that other person, you have an electricity inside of your brain. It arcs from one point to another. And what happens to you as the way you think depends on the angle of the arc. And so what does it become in the Bible? It becomes an arcangle. It becomes an archangel. It becomes a transmission of electrical power to show you so that you understand. So we look at evidence. And so the whole thing that we found in this word is letters, I-E-O-U, I-E-Z-E-M-A, which is the true God, which is electricity, which is Om, which is eternal energy, which is atomic, which is my electromagnetic fields, which is the measurement of the current, and the measurement of the current that goes up through the chakras. It goes through 7 resistance points or 20 resistance points or how many ever it goes through. And people chant Om. What do they know? That Charlie Ohm was going to be born and discover the electrical resistance, because that's the symbol of international symbol of electrical resistance is Om. All of this is laid out for you. This nothing happened by chance. There's no reason for us to be so ignorant. I mean, everything, they're even dropping it all over the place. I was talking to him about the web, the arachnoid. So what do we do? What do we do up there? Oh, well, what's the greatest means of communication? The biggest, hottest means of communication in the world is the World Wide Web. And Jesus is the sun star. And in Greek, the word Jesus has the numerical value 888. And it says in the Bible, and no one could buy or sell without the sign of the beast. And his number is 666. And now they say from Bell Atlantic, and no one can call long distance without the sign of the Christ. And his number is 888. All over the place. It's all over you. It's all over you. What's up? I don't think so. My church says I'm not allowed to look at that. I don't think so. I'm going to sing Amazing Grace. What a wretch am I? I'm going to sing it until I fall under the chair. And they'll send somebody when I'm in a box. And they'll say God needed a wallpaper hanger in heaven. That's why he took Gerard. That's it. And that's it. That's what he's accomplished. Now, let me show you something. Are you with me? Probably not, but at that. Let me tell you something. Are you with me? What do the Coptics do? What did the Coptics do? Ethel?
Yes.
Are you with me?
Yes.
What are you looking for? The Coptics searched. Come on. The Coptics searched through evidence to find truth. And they got in trouble with the Christians. Do you know anybody that searches through evidence to find truth? You know what you call them? A cop. Well, you do. And as they said on TV, and now you know the rest of the story.
Pop out.
Okay. So all of these very interesting things, we seek to find truth through science and nature. To know, to understand, to become aware. And so we come through the desert and we spoke to no one. Nobody could ever speak to you and me until now, because now we've evolved to the point that we understand. He understands how the nervous system works and how the nerves and the brains work, and he understands all these things. He doesn't understand yet about this thing in the body. Who put this in here? See, like somebody said, dura mater, pia mater, arachnoid. Somebody said outer court, inner court. curtain. Somebody said, cast your net to the right side. And somebody said, when you build the temple, the stair, it goes up with winding stairs, which is DNA, and then to the door on the right side. It's all talking about cosmology, physiology. It's all talking about the anatomical structure of the nervous system because you're plugged in. Look, there are 12 constellations in the ecliptic zodiac. There are 12 signs of the zodiac. Why? There's only one reason. Because in your head, there are 12 pairs of cranial nerves. That's why. And so when the guy up there said, look, Charlie, Michael, excuse me, you're the archangel. I'm going to construct these people, and I'm going to stick 12 cranial nerves in the head. How are we going to have them keep in touch? Well, I'll put 12 signs and 12 constellations in the ecliptic, and that should, okay. There's a reason. In other words, did you ever see a computer? Your plug, the 12 in here, fits the outlet of the 12 up there. So you can plug it. But who knows that? I can sit down with my computer. AJ can sit down with your computer. Say, I am going to go on the internet. I am going to communicate with the World Wide Web. I wish I could, but my pastor said don't touch it. I'm going to pretend that I am in here. I mean, don't touch it. Don't understand it. And I certainly... You know, it said in John 16, verse 12, the words were given to Jesus. And remember something, all this stuff was not written by desert people or written by people in church. It was written by people from a higher dimension and with knowledge from a higher civilization. But in John 16, 12, Jesus says, I've yet many things to tell you, but you can't bear them now because you haven't evolved. So we waited on the great Libyan desert. We saw Muhammad's tribes, but we didn't speak to anybody about these things. Because it wasn't time. And the Greek monks had great respect for the Coptics, Gnostics. But we waited for you. And now the knowledge has come down. The Sufis, astrology, medicine, solitary Coptics. Egypt, Arabia, deep in the forest, distant galaxies. And so we gave you the symbol. And we gave you a Zozio. And we gave you 4555. And then I came to give you these things. Debbie gave me a writing the other day. The Coptics knew the science of matter and energy. It's what the gentleman told us before about, the nerves. They knew all of that. Knew all of it. You can't write about nuclear fission and not know what he was talking about. You can't write about the speed of light. You can't write about the pineal gland. You can't draw an anatomical diagram of the brain and say, watch out how you put this up because this is a symbol of something else that exists, which is your brain. You can't know that and not know what he was talking about. They knew it thousands of years ago. We have a medical doctor that comes in here and says the medical community didn't know what the pineal gland was 50 years ago. They knew it 4,000 years. Hey, go to Genesis chapter 32. Yell out what the page is. If somebody has never seen this, take a look at it. I don't care, Go ahead. Take a look at it.
29.
Genesis chapter 32. What page is it on? Page 28. Look at it. Here's René Descartes, the great psychologist from France, and he says, the place where God and man meet in the human body is the pineal gland of the brain. Here, Genesis chapter 32. Look at verse 30. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face. What's it? An accident? That's how you prove it. I say, isn't it worth thinking about? Isn't any of this stuff worth thinking about? I mean, are we so do you know what? If you were to meet one of these people that knew this, it would be like you talking to a caveman. They're 6,000 years ahead of you. They have evolved 6,000 years ahead of your evolution. And how can they talk to you? They're feeding you with tiny little bits of stuff. When you talk about what you know now, what he knows, what she knows, what you guys know, think of what you'll know 200 years from now. Think of what you'll know 10 years from now. You haven't discovered anything but for the last 75 years. Before that, your whole civilization was a blur. 75 years, you've discovered everything. But they knew about it thousands of years ago and waited for you to get to a point where you could start to discuss it. And that's what this age is all about. So the life force is this, and in this book is simply an electric force. And it said, and this guy said, a 1% imbalance between the positive and negative energies in your head, and your head would burst into flames. It would blow itself up. And you know that some people have bursted into flames? I've read them. Waves of electricity flow across your brain, and they're causing millions of electrical impulses. All chemistry, all life is a matter of the behavior of atoms, and it all started with Adam in the Bible. The variations of the force allowed to evolve to the point where we are now. And the electricity that comes from the Son of God, which you look at through the light of the world, is the force. And particles come, even if not in, when you meditate, even if you're not in contact with other particles, they find their way, they arc their way. And the arc angle is the electric force that touches parts of your brain that are apart. This is a quote from this book, and then we're done. I know you're. Electrons react with light. They could emit particles of light because one electron could feel the light of another. This is, you can feel mine and I can feel you can feel my vibes, I can feel your vibes and your energy back and forth. A force operated between us, the electric force. So as you share inside of yourself that symbol, you meditate on that symbol, you see that symbol, you say that word one time, azozio, you understand what it means. You understand 4555. You look to where that place is. And those charged particles will react with other charged particles that share the qualities and become a cosmic force. It all comes from the same source. All of our electrical force comes from the same source, just like a hologram does. And this isn't something that's possible. This is something that's true. It says in Job 40:16, his strength is in his loins, his force is in the navel of his belly, which is your solar plexus. Debbie wrote something on a paper, and I wanted to share it with you, because this electrical force is nature. And when you are prepared to mature, when you're prepared to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe as smart as I am, maybe somebody is trying to tell us things, because we've destroyed this earth and we've destroyed this planet. We've abused the children. We've abused the women. We've held back. We've oppressed poor people. We've held people down. And all of these things, and we champion in the halls of Congress when we can cut aid to these little kids, or we can cut aid to some old lady, but we dare not touch the corporations because that's from where our money flows. You're a fraud. And so nature comes, and you abuse the animals, and you slaughter the animals in ways that are so disgusting that it revolts and comes back against you. And even the dolphins commit suicide to express their disgust. And all of nature. And so now you come to a point where you say, maybe, just maybe, somebody provided us with this information that we could take it and quietly and personally within ourselves, not joining anything, not being a part of anything, but being a part of yourself, we could take it and do what you're doing, but for God's sake, begin to understand, and begin to understand that yes, indeed, when they talked about this, they were talking about what goes on inside of your brain and what goes on inside of this universe. So what she had written on the book and what the book says, I would conclude by saying, and you can answer and you can respond to it, may the force be with you. Amen. Thank you.